Hello and welcome to another edition of the Pace and Space podcast. My name is Sean Barnard, as always, here for another episode to break down what is going down in the inner workings of the NBA. Here with my guy Sam Oshtry from The Score. Sam, how are we doing this fine Tuesday here?
Doing great, doing great. It's one of those times in the NBA where there's nothing to talk about, so the discourse has been pretty bad. It's been kind of a crazy week for the NBA off the court. Just everything that has surrounded the conversation that has nothing to do with basketball. It feels like it's been a lot of chat around the NBA, and we're going to talk about it all. But more than anything, I am so excited to get back to the games because it's gotten a little ridiculous without actually talking about real basketball games.
What, you don't like talking about Kevin Durant's burner saga, man? That doesn't fire you up?
That's more fun than the tanking stuff. My goodness, have I been bookmarking like crazy on Twitter recently.
Yeah, that is fair. We are going to touch into a little bit of it all. But first, let's get a little couple surface area takeaways for All-Star Weekend. Underwhelming dunk contest. Underwhelming, I would say, three-point contest overall, though. It was cool to see Damian Lillard out there and kicking again. I thought the All-Star game as a whole was above my level of expectations, that it was nice to see these guys compete a little bit. The Rising Stars Challenge, I definitely thought the young guys brought it as well. So if I'm overall giving this All-Star break a grade, I'm probably giving this like a B+, Sam Oshtry. I felt pretty solid about how this weekend went. How did you perceive it?
I'm probably under the same impression. I kind of am just like, it is what it is at this point. I don't really care if the All-Star Weekend isn't great. It's not that important. We do it every single season where we get into this chatter about like, all right, is the All-Star game, how do we fix it? How do we fix the dunk contest? When in reality, it doesn't matter. It's not that important. We start playing the games again. Nobody cares. You go to the second half of the season, you go to the playoffs, you go to the summer. Nobody cares about the All-Star Weekend other than these 2 days. So if it sucks, it sucks. I don't really care. It doesn't change how I view the NBA. It doesn't change how I view basketball. Of course, I would want these 2 games to be great, but dunk contest is what it is. I thought there's some cool dunks. I thought Kashad Johnson did a good job and kind of put his name on the map because he's not a guy who plays a lot for the Heat. You're never going to get the interest and enthusiasm no matter how great the dunks are unless you have top end players and some of the stars of the league, but they have no incentive to participate. None of them want to. They're kind of embarrassed, for lack of a better term,
which is lame.
In some was. Yeah, I agree. But that just is what it is. The All-Star game, I thought it was more competitive. It was fun. Kawhi put on a show, 31 points. I thought the World versus All-Star or World versus US was an interesting element. You know, I don't really think it's like, oh, World versus US when you have 2 US teams. It's hard to say, oh, who's better, especially when a lot of the World guys weren't playing and they don't care. But I thought it was fine. It is what it is at this point.
Yeah, I think that is fair, that it is what it is. I think overall, like, I live with that being the All-Star break. It was something. I wasn't like offended that was the quality of basketball on my television, which I think there have been years in which that was the case there. So we can kind of leave that as it is. I don't have any too deep of takeaways on the All-Star break as a whole. It will be nice to return to some actual basketball. We got a couple updates about the Philadelphia 76ers for the second half of the season. So Daryl Morey not taking an All-Star break himself, signing Cam Payne to the 14th roster spot there, and then following that up by upgrading Jabari Walker from a 2-way contract to the 15th standard slot, brought in Tyrese Barton as the last 2-way contract there. But I primarily want to talk about Cam Payne right here. I kind of like this addition, and I've been very critical of Morey of late. He certainly do not, take back some of my comments at the trade deadline here, but I do give him credit for thinking outside the box a little bit, finding a guy in that overseas pool rather than just digging through the buyout bargain bin type guys. What's your take for Cam Payne returning to this Philadelphia 76ers franchise and playing a role in the second half of the season?
I like it. I mean, it's a zero risk move from Daryl Morey and the Sixers. Where do I think Cam Payne is some impact player and gonna really change the trajectory of the season? No, but no move is out there. They want guard depth for all the reasons that people were complaining about the Jared McCain trade. They don't want to have to play Kyle Lowry extended minutes like they did last week in that game. So I'm not of the impression that this was like some huge move or anything, but I also don't think it was a low risk move. And Cam Payne is a guy who's an energizer bunny. That's always what he's been his entire career. He's an energizer bunny, and he can come in and swing a playoff game. And maybe he'll do that. You never know.
Yeah, the quote that always sticks with me from Cam Payne during his first tenure here in Philadelphia is the quote, "Energy is free." And that is like the exact mentality that you want from a role player, man. Cam Payne, he knows exactly who he is, that he knows that he's not going to be a guy, contending for MVPs or pushing for all-star. But what he can be is a guy that is going to give you everything he's got on a night-to-night basis, whether it is coming in and knocking down 3 threes, whether it is just getting, dancing all around on the bench and giving the team a little bit of vibes. I do think as much as vibes can sometimes be overrated, they needed this type of just personality on the roster, especially after losing Jared McCain. They need guys that can kind of pick up the slack for it. I like this from Cam Payne. He played just last year for the Knicks, and mind you, swung a playoff game for the Knicks in last year's playoffs. It feels like an annual occurrence that he swings some sort of playoff game. He's played in some high leverage situations. I think this is far better than I expected with one of these roster spots.
100%. He's not good, but he has the ability to swing a game. Like you said, he'll come out with his wacky jump shot and just drill 3 threes. And that really can give a boost, especially if you're playing at home. You saw him do it for the Knicks last year. You saw him do it for the Sixers when he was in Philly. So this is a guy who can – he's some guard depth, right? If he's playing consistently in the rotation, that means there was a major injury, and that means the Sixers are cooked anyway and they don't have a chance. But – in any given game where someone isn't feeling it, you want to give him a 4 to 6 minute stint. He has the ability to kind of change the trajectory of a game, not of a season, but of a game. So, like I said, a low risk move where they needed guard depth. There wasn't a lot of guys on the buyout market. Maybe Lonzo Ball, people were talking about. That obviously didn't materialize. When you get rid of Jared McCain, you have to bring someone over. So Cam Payne, who I believe was playing in Greece, right? Or
Serbia.
Serbia, yeah. So he's playing in Serbia. Who knows what his numbers were? I didn't really check, but it's a low risk move.
Yeah, I did have my DMs popping a little bit from shout out to my Serbian friends asking some questions for how this buyout work, which as if I knew the answer to all of that. But I did my best sorting through. I didn't know these people.
Serbia should hate you more than any other country.
That's fair. I don't know how deep of a dive they did on my
clearly not. If they knew how you really feel about some of your takes.
But what I was able to piece together with my good friends over there was that Cam Payne had to pay to get out of this deal, that the NBA hard limits the buyout number at $875,000. It was a $1.75 million deal. So a risk that Cam Payne is taking and willing to pay to get back to the NBA. If he can latch on to a minimum contract somewhere else next year, it's more than worth it. That we saw Gershon Yabusele go through something different, obviously much different careers, as Cam Payne has a much deeper NBA history and a guy that's stuck around at a little more consistent rate, but do appreciate that sort of gesture there, and will commend Morey for this.
My favorite, I was going to say before we wrap up, I think I've told you this before, but my favorite Cam Payne story is I was at a Wizards Knicks preseason game when he was on the Knicks, sitting behind the Knicks bench, and I was with my buddy there, and I was just trash talking Cam Payne pretty much the entire game, because it was a preseason action, so he was playing a lot, about how he's just not a good player, this and that. And and then I realized in the second half, his wife is sitting directly behind us, and she starts cheering like ultra loud for him. I put the pieces together based on what she was saying, that she's his wife, and she definitely 100% heard all the trash I was talking about Cam Payne. So that was fun.
Wow, that is a good story right there. But shout out Cam Payne. I do think he's a good sport about all that stuff. I do like him as like a personality, human being. So welcome back to Philadelphia. Any hard takeaways for Jabari Walker getting that 15th roster spot? I did kind of think it was a foregone conclusion, but now that it is official, any real notes from you there?
No, I mean, good on him for securing a 2-way deal out of that, off a 2-way. He had the leverage, and they kind of, it was always a foregone conclusion, like you said, that they were going to offer him that last roster spot based on everything that transpired at the trade deadline and the way they were headed. So it was well deserved. I mean, again, if they're fully healthy, he's not someone I see in the rotation when you have guys like Trenton Watford and Andre Drummond. If he's healthy, I don't really see him in the rotation, but he's a good depth piece, and he's played well. He's played himself into a standard contract, so good for him.
Yeah, he earned it. I do appreciate them taking care of him. I like that they didn't drag this out, that they just said, all right, let's lock you up. He's out of eligibility, and the timing of this will be a little bit of a factor. I believe tomorrow is the date or Thursday, I think, is the date that they'll officially sign on the dotted line, which have a couple implications with the eligibility, more so with Tyrese Martin than Jabari in particular here. But he's a big body, man. He's physical. He's strong. He uses his body really well. I do think there's a case that he's the best rebounder on the Sixers roster, which is a need for this team. So him not being eligible for the postseason would have been a bit of an issue. We've seen Nick Nurse count on him at a pretty regular rate whenever they are getting beat on the boards at a high level. I do think he's an NBA caliber player. I'm not ultra excited for what his ceiling is. Like, I think there's a pretty notable gap in like what the potential of a guy like Dominic Barlow versus Jabari Walker here. But nonetheless, he earned it. I appreciate them taking care of him. And the only other note that I think contractually, this is a standard two-year contract. slightly different than Dominic Barlow, who has a team option for next year, which I thought was a bit interesting. My perception of that is like they're probably going to get try and opt out of the team option and sign Barlow to a more long-term contract, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Tyrese Martin, by the way, local kid, Allentown product. I've seen him play quite a bit in like the Rump Classic and some pro-ams. I do think he's a dude worth paying attention to, that I don't think they're just like burning these two-way slots. I like the way that they've continued to roll through guys they do believe could be NBA caliber talents.
Yeah, this is very Nixon cronies, whatever. What's that expression when you're like very in the weeds of the Sixers moves, logistics, all that stuff? You don't even know what I'm saying.
I don't even know what phrase you're going for. Yeah.
All right, I'll have to look it up. The only thing that matters is Joel Embiid's knee, all right, after the All-Star break, which nobody's really talking about. But let's remember that he did miss the last 2 games before the All-Star break with that with knee soreness. He needed that All-Star break more than anybody. It was a really good thing he wasn't playing in it, so he didn't have to be involved in those, do the media, could just rest and recover for the last week. But we'll see what his status is and what his health is on Thursday and moving forward the rest of the season. But that is the most pressing thing coming out of the All-Star break.
Yeah, 100% there. And I will say, I've not loved the tone of some of the way that it has been spoken about. And I know that there have not been any real like hard hitting, reports or anything like that. But the way that Nick Nurse just sort of talks around it is not something that makes me feel particularly great about it. I'm not going to panic until we see this injury report ahead of the first matchup coming out of the break. But if Joel Embiid cannot play in that game, then we got issues. So everybody bookmark that a little bit for the sake of things. Now, before we dive into this tanking conversation, which does feel like it is just absolutely dominating the league discourse in a way that I think is insane, to be perfectly honest, but I do want to touch on Kevin Durant, man. There will never be a professional athlete like Kevin Durant. And the latest news with Kevin Durant does appear to be that he has been caught running a burner, which I don't judge him for that. I think there's a lot of athletes that do have burners. What I will judge him for a little bit, though, is just actively talking shit on all of his teams.
You're only going to judge him a little bit for this?
I mean, sure. I'll start here before we dive into Kevin Durant specifically. Do you care or do you care that athletes have burners? Because I kind of think it's a healthy thing.
No, I don't care. I mean, it does kind of show a fragile ego if you have a burner, where that's what happened with KD is he was defending himself on his original burner years ago. And that's the whole Brian Colangelo thing. I mean, he was defending himself, his looks, his collar, and certainly his GM and basketball operations skills.
That was
defending himself. Yeah, but he was defending himself on a burner. And these people have really fragile egos. People are killing them. They don't want to defend themselves with their actual name, so they're doing it on a burner. It does signal fragile ego for sure. But KD transitioned into just straight up defending himself on his regular account. He was DMing guys in people's replies, just coming at them if they were criticizing him, which I respect. I mean, you should kind of protect your brand and your identity and your legacy in a lot of ways. So I respect that. I don't have a problem with that. So I don't care if you have a burner. It's not some huge thing, but it does show a little bit of insecurity, fragile ego with how people are talking about you. But when you start trashing other people on burners, that's one whole nother thing. Before we do get into it, I really haven't found any ounce of evidence this is him. And like, can you walk me through the evidence this is him rather than some massive internet scandal that's just run rampant, that has no truth or legs to it like we see every day these days?
Yeah, so there's not, it's kind of one of those situations where there's not going to be like the smoking gun, but there's all this that is just this, there's too much overlap for this not to be a guy in the know. Like he's talking about how the play call was designed to go to Şengün in like a crucial play, that he was like calling Jabari Walker names, Jabari Smith names. And like, there's a lot of like in the weeds stuff about decision making with the Rockets that is just like, this isn't somebody that doesn't know something. And I hear you that like, and then like, dude, him walking into the All-Star game with the playing on his phone or typing on his phone, getting flicked up in the layup lines that he's playing on the phone as all this is going down. This is on brand for a Kevin Durant like activity. There's a little bit too much substance to this in my mind that it can't not be Kevin Durant. That they're all like the past players that he's played with, talk about Kyrie, talking about Devin Booker, talking about Steph Curry. And then like, it just feels like to me there's way too much for this to be a coincidence.
I just don't think he's that stupid. Like, you have to be next level just dumb. Like, think about it. Like, just next level dumb to actively talk that much trash about your teammates, your active teammates. One thing, like, all right, Kyrie and how that ended with some random people, that's fine. But this isn't like your boys in a group chat where, yeah, if KD talks about his teammates like that to his best friends in a chat, that's one thing that gets leaked. That's unfortunate.
But
These were absolute randos.
They are, but that's where this stems from, is a group chat. Like, it's a private account that all these are coming from a group chat between this private account. I don't know who those people are. One of those guys obviously turned their back on Kevin Durant or sold him out, or however you want to phrase that.
Yeah,
but like,
presumably they're randos and not his boys. Like, fair. You only talk about that stuff with your boys. Like you don't talk trash to your coworkers to random people. You just don't do that. You do it to your boys. You talk trash about your coworkers. That's how it works. It's just like, it would be next level stupid for him to do that. And, you know, I mean, there is a deeper introspective conversation to be had here about like Kevin Durant as a person, and honestly how like sad it is how after every single game he feels the need to just log online, and like he's an unbelievable troll. He's hilarious. I love
Kevin on Durant. This. So make the full case, because I'll argue against this.
It's just look, I love that he how much he loves basketball, but it's how much he loves hoop. But it's not just that he loves hoop that much. It's that he's so like fragile and insecure and honestly lonely, where he used to spend all his time online kind of just defending himself. And look, I'm not like saying I feel bad for Kevin Durant, who's one of the more successful athletes of all time.
Yeah.
But at some level, it's like, it kind of shows no matter how much success, fame, money you have, it doesn't really matter. Your ego can be that fragile if all this is true, and you can still be that lonely in a way. None of it matters. That's kind of just who he is. And look, Kevin Durant's never been a good teammate ever. He's not. I'm not saying he's a bad teammate or anything. And I've been one of the biggest Kevin Durant defenders as basketball players going back years and years. But as a teammate, it's pretty clear he's never been a leader. He's never been a guy who elevates others around him. You don't want to play for Kevin Durant. You just play with him. It's why the only success he's had is when he went to an infrastructure like the Warriors, and Steph Curry was in place, and Draymond and Steve Kerr, and the best leaders in basketball in recent memory were all there, and he just had to not mess it up. And he's that great of a talent where that's what he did. He just didn't mess it up. And that's the only real team success he's had. And it's kind of sad that that's the case, but it's because of his personality and who he is. But at the same time, that lends itself to being so dedicated and addicted to his craft, which is why he's one of the best scorers of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of that there. The thing that like I totally accept and honestly I'm cool with, like, athletes having burner accounts, is like, you're always, especially in today's world, like under the microscope that's such a like significant extent, that I don't blame you for just wanting to be like a normal guy once in a while, like wanting to, what can I just scroll without people knowing I'm Kevin Durant? Of just, I can be random, you know, his user account. I'm not even going to say it on here, but like I get that. Now for Kevin Durant in particular here, I also think this is a dude who loves basketball like as much as a human being can. Like, there's no doubt about that. And I can tell it's like bothersome to him to see the way that he sometimes is talked about by people that in his eyes, like, you know, like shouldn't have the voice that they do. Like, we see the way the media works nowadays with like the hot takes and the clicks, and he's certainly been a guy that's been gotten the short end of the stick, and it has not been as much lately. I think far more in the early parts of his career with the Golden State transition and all those kind of things. So I think he like takes that personal. I also think it says a little bit more about like society and the way that social media works, that you have access to one of the individual best basketball players of all time, and all that people want to do is just fight with him online. Like, there's never a healthy discourse of like, hey man, like, how do you know, you know, no, healthy basketball questions of like, what are you looking for in a pick and roll or things like that. It's always just like, yeah, well, LeBron's way better than you, dude. So who cares?
Well, that's fair, but that's because that's how you get a reaction out of him. All these people who are tweeting at him want a reaction out of him. If you're complimenting him or saying positive things or asking genuine questions, you're not getting reaction. He's only responding to people who are negative. So that's what people have to do to get a response out of him, is be negative. I mean, I know people, I have a friend who DM'd back and forth with Kevin Durant like 3 or 4 years ago. And it was just about how cowardly he was to go to the Warriors. Same stuff he's heard and all of us have heard so many times. And he responded to all of it. And it's just like, dude, like, get off your phone at some point. Like, it's not good for you. I don't care how famous you are, how much money you have. It's just not good for you at some point to do that. I do understand your point about athletes having burners, which is why I don't have a problem with it at all. If you want to just, even if you want to defend yourself, or just kind of tweet regularly or talk hoops regularly, and it's not, oh, this famous athlete said this, it will be the headline everywhere. I don't have a problem with that at all. But Kevin Durant's on a whole nother level.
Yeah, no, for sure there. I'm definitely not going to argue that one by any means. Do you think there's any issue when he walks back into the Rockets locker room and Alperen Şengün and Jabari Smith read these comments?
I don't think I don't think this is true. Like, I don't think
Really?
this is Kevin Durant. I really don't.
You're still there.
I don't think he's that stupid. I think it is next level stupid to be talking that much real direct trash about his teammates.
But you don't think this is consistent with his personality? Like, for all what we just talked about?
Not trashing your teammates like that. It's just like that's next level, trashing your teammates like that. Yeah, all right, Kyrie did this when we played together 4 years ago. That's one thing. Your active teammates when you're in a pursuit of winning an NBA championship. I don't think it's true. He obviously hasn't talked to the media since. He'll have to address it. It'll be a question that's asked. And if he gives anything other than you guys are absolute fools and clowns for believing that and a full denial, then he's going to open up a lot of gateways. If you are Alperen Şengün or Jabari Smith or these other guys who's talking about, this is untenable. I mean, he thinks you guys are clowns and trash and he can't win with you. This is an untenable situation. I don't think the Rockets are contenders as is, but you have to actually think about moving on from Kevin Durant if this is true. I mean, this would be as big of a in-season infighting that we've ever seen in the NBA. Like the stuff he was saying about these guys where he thinks they suck. Like this was so disrespectful. This wasn't just like, oh, he ran the play wrong or whatever. It was next level. Like he thinks these guys suck at basketball, his own teammates, based on those comments. So that would be untenable. That would be, you cannot move on with Kevin Durant on your team, or else you have to decide one or the other at that point. So again, I don't think this is true or him, but he has to address it, and he will in the next day or so.
I do 100% think this is Kevin Durant. I do think this is him running the account that has said these things. I also don't think this is derailing a season. I think that maybe you run a quick fade, you get in each other's face a little bit, and then you move on. But I do think this is
Draymond and Jordan Poole they moved on well.
Well, different. That sucker punching a dude who didn't see it coming is different.
Sucker punching verbally.
Yeah, but that's different. Like Draymond crossed the line. Like what Draymond did crossed the line far more than if this is Kevin Durant than what he did. Do you agree with that?
Like, yes, but obviously, yeah, you get punched in the face. You're not going to be cool with that guy ever again. It's hard to come back from. But at the same time, in some ways, that's not as bad as knowing that you play with a guy who thinks you suck.
Do you think Jordan Poole thought Draymond thought he was good before that?
I mean, he did help them win. I actually do. Like, he helped them win that championship, no doubt. Jordan Poole was a part of that 2022 championship. I think Draymond probably thought he was soft and whatnot, but I think Draymond thought he was a good player.
Maybe.
I'm trying to find the actual DMs right now.
There's plenty. The more I search, the more I find, man, that there's a million of these right now. But yes, I do think this is Kevin Durant. I think if you're the Rockets, you just kind of got to roll with it right here. That this is who he is. This is who he's always been. Is your mind changing at all by scrolling through these?
Can't trust Jabari to make an effing stop.
Yeah, there's words.
He said words like he called his teammates words like the R word. And and stuff
Jabari.
Like that.
Yeah.
I mean, this would be as catastrophic as it gets.
It's not as bad as
we've ever seen. And think about NBA history. We would never have seen something like this.
The Colangelo burner is worse. That was way worse.
Yeah, but that's not like you don't go out and play for your president of basketball operations. Like, who cares if you're a player actually playing basketball? That was just obviously organizational. That was bad, and he got fired for it.
That was, tweeting medical information about players. I think it was Nerlens Noel was the guy, or Julia Okafor, one of those guys that he was like literally tweeting like, no, he failed his physical. He was traded here. It's like that's insanity from a general manager. Like and he rightfully was fired. Derailed the entire process there, but
don't forget about his big collars.
Yeah, his big collars there. But last question before we move on to the tanking here. So you're Kevin Durant. This question gets asked to you. What's your answer here, Sam Oshtry? How do you defend yourself?
KD's a pretty honest guy. I mean, he doesn't lie. Like when he got caught with the burners, I don't think he went into denial mode originally a few years ago. I don't know. Like, if anybody's in Kevin Durant's ear, you're obviously saying deny. Like, you cannot say that this was you or true, and hopefully there's no evidence that can actually find it was him. So you have to deny. But in some regards, if it is KD, if it's not, I think he'll go full denial. I'll be like, you guys are absolute fools, clowns. But if it is KD, I could see him being very coy about the answer and just kind of giving a vague response and kind of a non-response
Yeah.
response in some ways. So I think everybody will be just waiting for that media session with him. But I do want to note that there was something, and this is what I was texting. I don't know what's real or not. It's so like I think my media literacy is at as high as you can get. Sometimes I really don't know what's real or not. But there was a Twitter Spaces where that account. Did you see this? That
I
account
did.
came on, and all these people were like, "Oh, Katie's about to talk. It's his account." And it was just some random dude like trolling and laughing at anyone, which also makes me believe that this wasn't KD. Did you see that?
I did see that, and can I also first off, you're absolutely right. If it's harder to tell than ever before with all the internet world, but if you're Kevin Durant and you're trying to dig yourself out of the hole, how easy is it to just go, "Yo, buddy over here, come go in this space and make a joke of it"? Like, he absolutely could have had somebody do that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It would be a good move by him, savvy move by him, and
Which
he's a
yeah.
smart dude. Like he is a smart dude, really smart dude, which is why I don't think he can be this stupid to be talking to random dudes on a burner account, trashing your teammates. But we'll see.
The look in his eye as he is warming up for the All-Star game and continually scrolling his phone and walking into the arena, just continually
Well,
scrolling.
I think he's an addict. I mean, I think he's addicted to his phone and addicted to social media. So I
Yeah.
like it's dude, like there's last week, I think I noticed it, but it's happened a bunch. 9 minutes after the buzzer sound, he was tweeting at people. It's he first thing he does. He was known for years ago when he was young in his career at halftime of games. There's well documented stories. Halftime of games, he was searching up Skip Bayless's Twitter, looking for his name. What was Skip Bayless saying about him as he was in a game? Like that is next level insecurity, social media addiction, whatever you want to call it. But Godspeed, KD. Godspeed. Oh, wait, I actually do have a question before we get on the tanking. I saw this debate. Who's the better career, better player, however you want to define it? Kevin Durant or Kawhi Leonard?
Kevin Durant. Well, I don't know. My initial gut was Kevin Durant just because of like the longevity of things and how long that he's done it. But Kawhi, like when Kawhi is healthy, man, I do think he's probably the better basketball player. If we're doing career, I think I go with Kevin Durant, but Kawhi's been more impactful in all the championship in his he's 2-time finals MVP. That's a toss up for me. I think the more I talk through it, I think I'm leaning Kawhi.
I'm with you. If you're just going career, there's no way you could say Kawhi over KD. I mean, the longevity, the health, how consistently durable, other than the Achilles injury that KD had, how consistent he's been as a scorer in terms of the all-time charts, rebounds, points, whatever. KD will be way higher. Yeah. So if you're saying like actual who is the better career and you're ranking all-time great players, I think career matters, and I would put KD ahead. Yeah, I think it's undoubtedly Kawhi. If you're saying for one season, 100% healthy at the peak of their powers, who's the better player? Who would you rather have on your team? It's Kawhi. I mean, Kawhi's championships, both his finals MVP, certainly his Toronto run in 2019, are way more impactful and impressive than any of KD's championships. And just the height of Kawhi, which we might be in the height of Kawhi right now. I mean, certainly during that 2019 playoff run was that. We've had some Clippers unbelievable Clippers peaks, but Kawhi is the best top 3 player in the league undoubtedly for the last like 2 months or so. And that peak Kawhi is better than Kevin Durant's ever been. And so who's the better player? I think it's Kawhi, but who's the better career? I think it's KD, but that was something I saw floating on the timeline. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I do think that's the right way to sum it up right there. And man, shout out to Dr. James Glass now, because Kawhi, he put on a show during the All-Star game too, man.
31 and a quarter. That was unbelievable.
I think he scored 17 consecutive for his team. That's nuts stuff. So shout out to Kawhi. Cannot wait for the suspension to come in for the aspiration stuff though, nonetheless. But
it should be happening soon. They just wanted to wait till after the All-Star break.
I do think there's truth to that. I will not lie. So let's transition to the tanking conversation here. As I know you got a lot on your chest, Sam Oshtry. I want to open with this question right here. Is tanking a more prevalent issue in the NBA than ever before? Yes or no?
Nope. It's not. And I can't believe the discourse right now. First, I need everyone to remember that we're in a time of the NBA season. It's the driest time in the NBA season. And we do this cycle every single year, whether it's the ratings or some other issue, and we treat it like it's a crisis. And it's the week leading up to the All-Star game, because the games suck that week. Let's just be honest. Everyone's looking forward to the All-Star game. They're not good games. And then, of course, you have a week off for the All-Star break. And we don't have games again until Thursday. So there's no basketball to talk about. There's no basketball games to talk about. So what do we talk about? All the issues, all the problems, all the negativity surrounding whether it's All-Star Weekend a lot of the times or just issues in the NBA. And, of course, the Jazz accelerated the tanking conversation recently, and Adam Silver does a press conference of it on Saturday. Tanking has always been a part of the NBA. It is a part of the NBA's culture. Always has been, always will be. The Rockets did it in the 80s. The Spurs did it in the late 90s. The Spurs did it again recently. All these great Thunder did it to become what they are now. All these great teams have gone through bad stretches to become great. That's how it works. You can't have 30 great teams. You're going to have some really bad teams that have to bottom out. And for them to improve, it has to happen through the draft, especially small market teams. So everyone making these grand proclamations of tanking, it's a crisis. The NBA will never recover from this. We have to abolish the draft, get rid of the lottery. I mean, these are some of the most stupid takes I've ever heard since I followed the NBA, since I was like 6 years old. I mean, and it's from really smart people and mainstream people that a lot of these takes are coming from. And so I'm worried. I don't think the tanking is near as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. I think this year in particular, it's bad because of a lot of unique situations for some teams and because of the 2026 draft is one of the best we've seen in a while. So a lot of teams are gearing up for that. We can talk about pick protections in a second, which is an easy way to solve the tanking issue, if you want to call it that. But I'm worried because the NBA gets bullied by online discourse and media narrative. Yeah. And sometimes that's a good thing that they're receptive to criticism and feedback and they're willing to switch. And there's minuscule stuff like, oh, the finals logo was virtual instead of actually on the court. And there's some real at-large issues that they look to. But like Adam Silver's league office, they're an online league office. They know what people are talking about. So I'm worried that all this tanking conversation that's dominating the online discourse, dominating the media narratives, only because there's nothing else to talk about in the NBA right now because there's no games. I'm worried that we're going to have some drastic measures to a system that doesn't need drastic change. That scares me.
Yeah, I'm with you on just about all of that. That like for starters, I just don't think tanking is that like teams are always going to do it, man. This is just always going to be a thing, no matter how you slice it, no matter how you change it. You can even out the odds. You can do whatever you want to do. Teams are going to find a way that when you have a pathway to getting a franchise-altering player like Darren Peterson or AJ DeBanster or Cameron Boozer right there, teams are going to do it. They're going to do it for Victor Wembanyama. They're going to do it for Cooper Flagg. They're going to do it for whoever the kid is 10 years from now when that franchise-altering guy pops. You only have so many routes to bring in like high-impact players. And small market teams are always going to be a disadvantage to teams like the Lakers and the Knicks. And you can run down like the big market teams that have a stronghold in these type of situations. All the teams in Texas and Florida, the Heat, teams like that, they're going to do this. So just kind of let it happen. Is it annoying? Sure. Do you need to go to drastic measures to change things? Absolutely not. Like next year, the Jazz are going to try and win games. That this is the timeline they're on. They're doing this for this year and they'll be back in the mix. Like, this isn't a forever thing. No team wants it to be a forever thing because then they're losing money. Like this is strategic. You kind of got to let it go about. The abolish the draft conversation is insane to me, dude. Like seriously, think through that of what materializes here. All of a sudden, teams are just going to be signing, or players are just going to be signing on to play with high-level teams right away. What team, what key player coming out of high school or college is ever going to consider signing with the Sacramento Kings or signing with, you name it? Like, who's going to go to the Toronto Raptors? Who's going to go to Canada? Like, there's just not going to happen. And especially when you talk about sponsors and shoe deals starting to get in the mix here, that would be an absolute, like, just completely disrupt the entire sport of basketball. So just relax, everybody. It's not that big of a deal is kind of my message here.
That's where I'm at. And, I did see some points that were like, not all players would go to these big media markets because your market is your online brand at this point. It more than it is an LA or New York or the city that you play in. You look at Anthony Edwards. I mean, he's incredibly marketable and he's this huge star and he plays in Minnesota. But that doesn't mean living situation doesn't matter. And like who's going to play and live in Utah versus LA or Miami or Texas or these teams that are the places that you're talking about. So that's what's important. And also your brand would get in the way of this. Like your Nikes, your Pumas, all these shoe deals that teams are signing or players are signing with. Those places are going to persuade you to go
Yeah.
to the better team. So there's as the look, it's a fun time for crazy ideas, and I respect them, but they're all like, if you actually believe that that's the solution, then you're out of your mind, because it's not. And you know, Adam Silver's press conference, I don't know how much of it you caught, but he was talking about how they do have a backwards incentive system where it's like the worst teams are rewarded with the best pick through the draft. But as we've seen, the draft isn't always some foolproof thing. We've had Victor Wembanyama and Cooper Flag, and we're going to have some great picks coming up. But just because you get the #1 pick doesn't mean it's changing a franchise. Look what happened to the Hawks with Zachary Risichet. It doesn't. It's not some like foolproof thing where it's like, if you get you're rewarded so much just because you get one of these top picks. No, it's just a way for teams to try to build their future through young prospects, because they can't get free agents, or they can't have these stars request trades to their places because of the markets they play in, and they're at an inherent disadvantage. So it's really like, all the logic behind the anti-tanking takes is really flawed.
You're right, because there is an Anthony Bennett for every Cooper Flag that's out there. I also reject the premise of that being the logic. That's not rewarding the wrong thing. That's evening the level of competition, that you should not want the top teams to be taking the top picks. Absolutely. Teams that do have the worst record should get first dibs on picking through that pool. There's not a problem with that. That's, to me, is aligned with how that should be thinking. And I will say here, I've largely been a pro Adam Silver guy. This year specifically, my mind has started to shift into like, are we sure this is the right commissioner for the sport of basketball? Because it never feels like he has the answer in the way that I would like him to.
It's an interesting conversation. So I think Adam Silver's a brilliant businessman. I mean, how he's expanded the game globally, and his media rights deal, and he's made so much money for the players, for the teams, and all that stuff. But does he actually serve the basketball-loving fan? I'm not sure. And there's so many issues to discuss. I mean, people are talking about legalized gambling and all these crises that they act like are so much bigger deals than they are facing the NBA, when they're really not. Play styles one, where it's like, are we sure? Is there too many threes? Is too much pace? Is that not promoting high-flying athletic athletes that the casual fan likes? There's a lot of issues. I think one of the biggest ones with Adam Silver is he's really like hyper personalizing the NBA experience that doesn't cater to broader basketball fans like us. And I understand that from his perspective. And I'm sure you saw this thing with like the All-Star Media Day. Yeah. Where these people were complaining. It was like, oh, a lot of influencers are let in. They're asking these stupid questions that have nothing to do with basketball. And I get it from the NBA's perspective. You want to you want to allow these players to build their brands and come across as likable and relatable and all these things, while these real reporters are like, all right, we want to ask real basketball questions. And I understand it's this push and pull, because for me, I'd much rather have the basketball talk rather than talk about, I don't know, some random stuff comparing them to an NFL player. But I also understand that the NBA trying to make this a bigger brand, or have the players have this bigger brand than they actually, or increase their brand, which of course helps the NBA product and all that stuff. But look, the ratings are good. The league is in a healthy spot, way more than you would think. So I do think sometimes when everyone's killing Adam Silver and killing the league, it's a way bigger deal than people actually make it out to be.
Yeah, I just feel like his focus is never quite aligned in the direction that I would sort of hope it. Like you're right. He's been brilliant at his businessman. I do think at the wider scale of his tenure, like he's been wildly successful for taking the NBA to this point. But it does feel like such a focus is like pushing this international and expanding and all this, but it's like we got real deal things to deal with right now. That like all the aspiration talk, every time he opens his mouth about it, I'm like, you're just saying nonsense. And it's like if somebody has to face the music here, and you're that guy, like I feel like he can never be pinned down in a way. And I honestly, that whole press conference, I didn't love it.
Did you hear the AI talk about how they're gonna?
Yeah, that's insane too.
Yeah, I mean, he's talking about how he's gonna hyper personalize the NBA viewing experience, where it's like, sometimes, and I get it, you want to cater to a wide audience to really scale your business up and have so much, like what the NBA is trying to do is attention grabbing. But sometimes when you cater to too many people, you're not catering to anybody, if that makes sense. And like your basketball fans, the people who love basketball, are the people who you should really try to cater the basketball vision to and cater your league to. And sometimes it feels like he's just doing too much.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. Yeah.
I do want to say one more thing about tanking. Can we just go back to that for a second?
Maybe.
The one thing people don't understand when they're having this conversation, and then we'll wrap up. The one thing people don't understand is the Jazz aren't tanking as some team building approach. They are tanking to get the top 8 pick in the draft. They have the 6th worst record right now. That's putting that way too much at stake where they could lose that top 8 pick because they only have a top 8 protected pick, and it'll become the Thunder's pick, which would be catastrophic for them. They're not tanking as like some big team building approach to try to get one of the worst records in the league. Yeah, that'd be nice. They're doing it to keep that top 8 pick. And so pick protections are the way that this will all go away. If you want to address tanking, get rid of the pick protections because the Jazz have actually done things the right way in my mind. Like Lauri Markkanen, they acquired through trade. Keontae George, obviously they drafted and they developed him and he's become a good player. They got Ace Bailey, but it's not like they had any one of these top picks in the draft that changed the future of the franchise. Then you trade for Jaren Jackson, you enter win now mode for next season, but you need your pick this year. And that happens across the league where these teams are tanking because of their protected picks. So that's the way to get rid of tanking more than, tanking is some big team building approach, because tanking doesn't actually work. And I've said this for a little bit now, but since the lottery odds changed, tanking doesn't actually work the way a lot of people think it does.
Yeah, I mean, I do think they're sort of one and the same for like them the top 8. Like they could just be, dropping I think they would be doing this even without the pick protection, to be perfectly honest. Maybe
Just
not
overtly though. Like I don't think they would care if it was the 5th or 6th best odds.
Maybe, but I still think they have a vested interest in maximizing the draft odds, whatever that means. So we can figure out where the line is drawn in that. I think you and I both sit on the same side of things. So there's no need to have a massive overcorrection here. This is a strong draft, and there's a lot of bad basketball teams this year. It's not going to be the case on an every year basis. So any final thoughts on the tanking conversation or anything else?
I don't think so. It was just we discussed some of it, but it was just a brutal week for NBA discourse. And the league is way healthier than you would think based on all that. The league is in a great spot. We're going to have an awesome second half of the season. We're going to have incredible storylines, which we'll touch on Thursday's show. And we're going to have an incredible playoffs where we don't know who's going to come out of either conference. So let's get back to the basketball. That's all I want right now.
100% there. A little bit of a shortened version for us today. I got to run and take care of producing the Villanova basketball game. I already get my phone blown up about that, so I'm going to run and take care of that. But appreciate you guys for rocking with us today. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button wherever you guys are listening at. Drop a like on this video. Follow me and Sam on socials there. We'll be back next time right here on the Pace and Space podcast on PickSwap Media. Peace.